Hi, everyone. Welcome to Source Snack Break. I am Ren with Source. Today is Wednesday, August 19th. We are continuing our series of amazing manufacturers who have donated materials to our new flagship, I was going to say restaurant. I keep doing that. I'm so sorry, you guys. It's because I want to leave the house. Our new flagship library, which is open here in downtown Portland. Before we get started, I'll explain a couple things about the webinar tool. You're all muted automatically, but you do have access to the live chat there on the right. So you can ask questions or pop in your favorite emoji to try it out. We'll make sure we answer any questions you have. So bring it on. Katy is an amazing resource. So our guest today is Katy with Willis, and you're going to talk about Corian. I'm so excited to have you. Hey.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome.
I'm excited to be anywhere at this point.
Right.
So.
I love it. Before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be here with Willis?
Yeah, so I've been in the industry probably longer than I want to admit to, but it is there in print, so 1990. I started as an interior designer, commercial designer. I worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Oregon and did facility planning, so I understand all that pain. And about 2000, I had an opportunity to go to work for Herman Miller. So that was the start of the sales career, and I just kind of went from there. And I spent probably the bulk of my time in sales I spent at Ann Sachs. Doing Brown Stone, yeah. So that really gave me a love for hard surfaces, and I like I'm kind of into science, so that worked for me to be involved in a technical product more than furniture kind of thing. So,
yeah.
And I started with Willis about 3 years ago. It'll be 3 years next month, and really great group of people. Really love it.
I love that. Yeah. And before we move on, we just have to talk about this adorable photo of your dog. Can you describe his personality really quickly?
Well, he's a terrier mutt. We don't really know what. We refer to him as the terrierist because he's a monster. He likes, well, right now he's under my desk, and hopefully he'll stay quiet. His biggest job is to let me know when FedEx is here.
Awesome.
Usually when I'm on a conference call. So
we'll be prepared for that.
Be prepared, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's talk about Corian Solid Surface. Can you break it down for us? What is solid surface? What does that phrase mean? Because I feel like Corian is kind of the OG, and we might use it a little interchangeably, like the word Kleenex a little bit.
Absolutely.
So can you chat a little bit about what is Corian and what is the word solid surface, and where do those overlap and where don't they?
So Corian is kind of that. The name is sort of ubiquitous with solid surface. They invented the category
Cool.
back in the, when was it, 70s, I think. The government asked for DuPont to come up with a surface for lab floors that would not have problems with chemicals and stuff like that. And so they came up with Corian, and urban myth is that whoever created it had a son named Corey and a daughter named Anne. I cannot verify that story, but
it's cute nonetheless.
That's a myth. So didn't end up using it for government lab floors, but kind of realized they had something kind of cool, and went, hey, I think the housing market would be, residential market would be interested in this. And so it's really taken off from there. It is definitely not your mom's, early 80s, thick, unattractive Corian. It has come a long ways. So as to what it is created with bauxite, which is an iron ore. It comes out of the ground in that form, and then they render it into something called ATH, alumina trihydrate. So,
wow.
Say that 3 times fast.
Yep.
Yeah, I had to practice that one. They render it twice to get it as white as possible, so that you have a pure white base, which helps eliminate dye lot issues with it, which is why you can add a glacier white 20 years later, and it's
still glacier white.
Yeah. And then that's used as the the base of it, and then the filler is 100% acrylic.
Okay.
And not all solid surface has an acrylic fill to it. Some of it is polyester, some of it is a blend of the two. So it's really important for people to know when you're specifying whether it's acrylic or whether it's polyester, because that's going to determine what you can and can't do with it and where you can and can't put it.
Awesome. Okay, so let's get into, you set me up perfectly. So let's talk about what you can do with Corian specifically, because it is the acrylic filler. And what does it mean that you can do that you couldn't do with something that does not use all acrylic?
Yeah, so with the all acrylic base, what you can do is mostly thermoforming is what you can do that you can't do with polyester. So you can heat it up and mold it into whatever shape you want. It's fun to play with it that way. You can heat it up, you can mold it into a shape. As soon as it cools off, it's set. If you don't like it, you can heat it up and do it again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can just keep going. And you can route it. I mean, I guess what I really like about Corian is that it is a very functional material that it's a workhorse, but you can create these amazingly cool shapes and designs with it that you wouldn't think of when you just look at it.
Yeah.
So some of the things that, so the photo on the left is MR walls. So Mario Romano has created a partnership with DuPont, and he's created a digital platform that allows you to route patterns. I'm not explaining this well. It plugs into a CNC machine. So you create these digital patterns, it plugs into a CNC machine, and then it just gets routed out, and it's completely scalable.
Wow.
So the one on the left, he's combined routing a pattern with thermoforming, so you can kind of layer the things.
So those sort of wavy curved things, they've been carved out.
Correct.
Is how they got that texture, and then they curved it after that.
Exactly.
Awesome. And designers can plug into that and create their own pattern potentially?
Yes, they can create their own pattern. He's got, I think at this point, he's got like 30 patterns that are standard, that are scalable, but you can definitely do your own patterns and work directly with them and create patterns. So branding is a great opportunity with it. And then the other image here with the light shining on it, looks like it's light shining on it. It's not, it's backlit. So instead of routing the face of it, they routed the backside of it to change the thickness of the material, which allows you to backlight it and create a pattern that way.
Wow, so they've done a lot with that reception desk. They've curved it, they've carved it,
yes.
They've split it up. Yeah.
You name it, they did it. Yeah.
They did it, yeah. Can you talk about, when it comes to lighting, are there certain colors that work best, or are there things to keep in mind if you want to backlight a piece of Corian?
Not really. Not really.
You can do it with black too?
You could, you can use whatever color light you want. And in fact, I can't remember if one of the images is in here or not, but there's an MR Walls where he's backlit it with yellow, and you would look at it and think that was yellow material, and it's not. It's glacier white.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit more about what you can do with it as a surface, because it was developed to go on the floor. So where else can designers use Corian that they might not have thought about, apart from just, reception desks and countertops? What can they do with it that you always find really interesting?
Oh boy, a lot of things. One of the projects that we've worked on recently is University of Oregon, the new Hayward Field, and all of the lockers are made out of Corian.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so they created all the lockers, the doors, everything. You don't need a substrate. You can use it as a building material. So what you're seeing in the image here, the bookcases, those are just built out of Corian. I mean, I'm assuming the really thick part has something going on in there, but all the shelving, all of that can just be straight up Corian. And then another thing you can do is toilet partitions. This particular image, they've combined MR walls with toilet partitions. So that's kind of cool. You don't usually walk into a bathroom and go, whoa.
Yeah, especially one with toilet partitions.
Right. Those are super cool. And then the other image that people don't think about is that you can print onto it.
Okay.
And print on it in two different processes. You can do a direct print, which will leave kind of a raised surface on it. Not quite as durable because it could, get scraped off. Or there's a process called dye sublimation, where you literally take a metal plate with your image on it and your ink, press it, heat it up, and then press it into the Corian. It heats the Corian enough to open the surface. It accepts the ink, and then once it cools off, it closes. So that pattern becomes completely smooth. It takes a lot of abuse because it's permeated into the material.
So it's basically like fused to the material itself.
Pretty much, yeah. It's almost like, think of it as like a tattoo. It's embedded into the surface of it. So.
Yeah. Awesome. So when it comes to, I'm assuming with the Hayward field, they wanted those specific lockers to be a color, specifically the Oregon green or yellow. So when it comes to working with custom colors, is that something that you guys can do with Corian if a designer has like a paint chip or a Pantone color or something like that?
Absolutely, yeah. And actually, the university, it's all white. But
oh no!
I know. Such an opportunity. No, doing custom colors is super easy. I think the thing that I want people to know is that it just takes time. There is a process of, get me a Pantone color or a paint chip, whatever. I can send it into DuPont. They do the color match, send it back. There's that back and forth of making sure you got the color right and then the strike off, and then it becomes a special order once that color's approved. So there's quite a long time period there. It can take up to 12 to 16 weeks to do something like that, but there's no order minimum. So literally you could do one sheet.
Wow.
If you wanted to. Yeah. And price point wise, it really doesn't work out for something that would make such a high impact in the design. I don't think the price point is out of the question. Usually the ones I'm seeing are coming in around between like $32 and $35 a square foot. So not bad, I don't think.
Yeah.
These are brand bags. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the questions you have here, the designers always ask, is what should I look for when specifying solid surface? Can you expand a little bit on that? Like what is it designers should take a look at and make sure they get in their specs? Oh no, Katy, you're frozen. Katy, come back. Uh-oh. You guys, we're going to troubleshoot in real time. Oh, there she is.
I'm back.
Are you back? You're back. Yay.
I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm frozen on the screen and then I just froze in real life.
You're good.
So one, again, make sure that you know what the filler is, whether it's acrylic or whether it's polyester. One of the big things for that, besides what you can do with it, is where you can put it. If you want to go outside, acrylic is UV resistant and polyester is not. So the other thing in regards to that, however, is that not every pigment color is UV resistant. So if you want to put it outside, which is completely doable because it's completely non-porous, so it's going to pass any freeze-thaw test, but let me know what color you're interested in so that I can look up the testing results for that particular pigment. So that's probably the biggest one.
And when asking about the filler, acrylic versus polyester, that's something that any rep would know if they're repping a solid surface, right? That's a common question to ask.
Absolutely. And don't get me wrong, we are not the only acrylic out there. There are other ones. But there are some that are polyester as well. So
okay. Yeah. And when it comes to working with Corian outside, what can you do with Corian outside?
Oh man, all kinds
Everything?
of things. You can clad buildings with it.
Wow.
Yeah, which and you see them in Europe quite a bit. I'm totally dying for somebody to do it in Oregon so that we can see it. But there's some really cool buildings in Europe with that are completely clad in Corian. And one of the great things about that is that it's completely, I mean, again, it's not porous. If somebody graffitis on it, you can just sand it off. I mean, it's just, yeah, I mean, so it's graffiti resistant and again, UV resistant, freeze thaw resistant. You know, if your building starts to look grungy, just wash it.
Wash it. So you can really get that like that bright white if you want and keep it bright white.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's one in Paris that is bright white and it is just spectacular. I should have included pictures of that, but I didn't think of it.
Awesome.
The other thing you can do with it is fountains. You can do,
cool.
yeah, I've seen some really cool fountains. You know, you can create the basin that will hold the water as well as do the wall and create some sort of routed image on it for the water to go down. Yeah.
Sweet. Are designers, I know it comes in sort of regular sized sheets. Are designers limited by the size that it comes in? How can they work with, you know, I know you can, if you can grind it down, that probably means you can erase some seams. Do they need to work within that size framework and then sort of go from there? Or does it come in sort of different sizes and shapes?
No, it's going to come in, standard is going to be 30 by 144 and ½ inch thick. There are some colors, limited colors that come in 1/4 inch thick, which you would only use for a vertical surface. You wouldn't use it on a horizontal. Those sheets are not quite as long. They're, I think, 98 inches. Simply because it is thinner material, so handling it without it bowing it's trickier for fabricators. But it gets used for cladding, like in operating rooms, that sort of thing. But yeah, you can pretty much create any size you want just by seaming it. And you would use the adhesive, seam it together, sand out that seam, and never be able to find it. That's how you get, you know, you see the countertops where it just continuous goes into a sink. Those are two separate pieces. It looks like one, but it's literally they glued that sink under there, cut it out, and sanded down the edge so it looks like a single piece.
And so that's really great where cleanliness is an issue. Does that make that seam impermeable, basically?
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. So it literally makes it seamless. You cannot feel it. The only thing to watch with seaming is if you are looking at a material, you know, some of the colors are sort of directional. They'll have a pattern that's a little directional. So if you're going to seam those, you might want to, we recommend you use a wavy seam. You know, call out, you seam it in a curve, and it makes that seam a little less visible. But again, you're still not going to feel it. There's no place for bacteria to get into or grow or anything.
So it's great for healthcare, great for senior living. Yeah. One of the things I also love about Corian is that it is Readless free.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yay.
So, and you guys have a great story where you got a Declare label, realized you were not Readless free, reformulated it, and then became Readless free. So that is like exactly why you do the thing. It's working.
It's like the Readless worked. So the solid surface was always Readless free. It's the adhesive. And as far as I know, I haven't looked recently, but as far as I know, I think the Corian Solid Surface adhesive is the only Readless free adhesive. And that's the one in 2019 that they looked at the composition of it and went, oh, we got a Readless and that needs to go. So they reformulated it. And the really great thing is it made it a stronger, easier to work with adhesive.
I love that. That is so great. Yeah. And I didn't know that you have a zero waste factory.
Yes. So there are 15 factories around the world, 15 locations. All of them are a net zero facility. So nothing goes to the landfill. Everything sold in the U.S. is going to be made in the U.S., however, so I should clarify that. The other factories are based where those are being sold so that they're not shipping things all over the place.
That makes sense.
So yeah, all made in upstate New York. And Yeah, zero waste. We've got red list free, we've got green guard, you can get leads credits.
You can
I
do a lot with Corian.
have a list here and I'm like, I'm forgetting something. Well building credits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Designers, do you have any questions for Katy? As you can tell, she knows a lot. I'm going to just ask a very selfish question, which is, if it's your countertop, can you put a hot plate on it?
I would not recommend it.
Okay.
I would, well, okay, when you say hot plate, do you
I mean like my boiling pot of thing
of
from
water?
the stove, or
Okay.
like my cookie sheet right on.
I would not recommend it.
Okay.
It probably is not hot enough to create a ring or damage it. But you have to remember, it's a material that's meant to be heated up so that you can mold it. So
I might have a whoopsie moment there.
You know, I'm the weirdo that has butcher block counters that I won't let anyone take a knife to. It's like, no, don't do it. If you did scorch it, you can sand it out. Have a fabricator come in and sand it out and repair it easy.
Great.
But
I love it. So, ish.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Well, let's see here. Designers, if you want to get samples, you absolutely can do that right this second. All of Corian is on our website, so definitely check that out, and you can get in touch with Katy immediately if you need samples right now. You can also register for another snack break. We have got a great series coming up next week. We've got Sankofa Lumber, who's going to talk about their circular economy. We're going to do a Meet Your Librarians with Brittany and Andrew next week, so definitely tune into that. I'm really excited to quiz them about what they've been up to. But in the meantime, Katy, it was so good to see you. We really miss seeing your face in person. And I hope you do well. And hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.